Good afternoon. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome to you to a transformative Thursday BW education webinar. Today we are discussing delivering job-relevant education can help universities achieve the greater good. Let me introduce the panelists to you. We have Mr. Raghav Gupta, who's the MD India for Coursera. He's leading the education technology revolution that has happened in the last 5 months. In any conversation in education, whether he's not in the panel or not, Coursera's names come up in some context or the other. So clearly Coursera has made sure where there was a need, you've been able to kind of provide that support. So welcome, Raghav. We also have Professor Himanshu Rai, who's the director of the Indian Institute of Management, Indore. He writes prolifically both on LinkedIn and elsewhere, and is very active in building the I Am Indore brand and his personal brand. We also have Dr. Sasiprabha, who's the Vice Chancellor of the Sathyabama Institute of Science and Technology. We also have Dr. Anand A. Samuel, Vice Chancellor of the Vellore Institute of Technology. We have Dr. S. Samanta, Vice Chancellor of the Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology, which is known as KIIT. Dr. Sambit Bal has started it, and Professor Samanta is taking that forward. I've had the good pleasure of interacting with Dr. Samanta. We also have Pratham Mittal, who's the head of the new initiatives at the lovely professional university. We have Mr. Krish Nangegadda, who's the Chief Innovation Officer of the GITAM University. He's permitted me to call him Krish, so thank you for that. And one of our panelists hasn't been able to join us. He's Professor R.V. Rajakumar, who's the director of the IIT Bhubaneswar. Last time a panelist wasn't, we have our Wednesday wisdom, and the ICFA B school director went to his heavenly abode on Tuesday night. I'm sure it is some work that is keeping you away from the webinar. So let me start by inviting each one of you for your opening comments. Let me start by asking Professor Himanshu Rai. Your opening comments, Professor Rai.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anurag, for that generous introduction. Now, I'll try and stay with the topic, and that is how does this particular education, the NEP 2020, actually encourage skill-based education, and to what extent can we bring in technology, and how can technology be used? Now, there are 2-3 very, very quick points I'll make in a minute, and that is that to me, I think the biggest step that NEP 2020 has taken is the setting up of the National Educational Technology Forum. And that is a big step, because through that, what the NEP is trying to do is to leverage technology in improving various aspects of education. At the same time, we need to remember that technology is merely an enabler. What we also need to look at is, what are we really trying to impart through that technology? And I think that is where institutions have to come together and ensure that whatever vision was created by NEP 2020 is actually translated into actionable items. Whether we had this pandemic or not, we were moving inexorably towards a post-fourth industrial revolution world. And therefore, the kind of skills which would be required then are going to be very different from the kind of skills that we have currently. In fact, there was a conference of the deans of Association of MBAs where I was one of the keynote speakers, and we identified 10 such skills. And a lot of those skills are the kind of skills which can be enabled by technology. So something like artificial intelligence, something like big data analytics, something like complex decision making, something like sense making, negotiations. Now, all of these are the kind of skills which would be relevant, which would be required. They have to be brought into the curriculum, and we have to figure out as to which elements of these skills can be inculcated and imparted through the use of technology. So I will be speaking later as to how we can actually do it, but as of now, I'll stop here.
Thank you so much. Professor Rai, the devil is in details, and implementation is everything. The NEP is a great vision document. It has the right direction. I hope the velocity and the implementation of achievement is right. Let me bring in Mr. Raghav Gupta, who's the MD of Coursera. Raghav, your opening comments.
Thank you, Anurag. Absolute pleasure to be here. Absolutely an august panel. And again, thank you for your, I would say, over generous introduction.
So that's a fair, in every conversation, they'd say, oh, we're using Coursera. In a lot of conversation, because we're doing about 2 conversations on education every week. So Coursera's name comes up. That's a factual statement. That's not a kind introduction.
Well, no, thank you for, again, that introduction. So I think what's interesting from my perspective is the timing of the NEP, right? And from a Coursera perspective, we work in higher education. We also work with the corporate world a lot. There are upwards of 2,500 companies that we work with. And I think we have an august panel who completely understand what some of the implications of the NEP are. To my mind, what is interesting is about a month ago, we also released something that Coursera calls the Global Skills Index. And this Global Skills Index looks at how skills are changing in the world. And just building on what Professor Rai said, I think if the intent of the NEP is to build skills for the future, I think what's important from a higher education standpoint is firstly to understand what are these skills of the future. And I think there are lots of opinions. I don't know if there's enough data-oriented insight to say what are these skills of the future. But it's a very simple first point. The second element of this is how do we genuinely provide high quality education to a large population of people? We have some fantastic institutions, the IITs, the IIMs, VIT, and so on and so forth. I think they are only 5-7% of the higher education space in India. So how do you actually take this to many, many more individuals? And the NEP talks about going from 26% GER to 50% GER, which will mean 3.8 crore students possibly going to 7-8 crore students. So the numbers are, of course, mind-boggling. I think the third element is going to be how do we bring to mind, how can we provide hands-on experiences? So how do you bring a combination of knowledge, but how do you bring also hands-on experiences? And then last thing, which I think, higher education talks about a lot and the working world talks about a lot, is how do we measure skill development? How do we also measure learning outcomes? So to my mind, these are 4 points that are probably points for discussion. I'd love to share a little bit of what we are doing about these subsequently, but I think that's probably good to set the context a little bit.
Thank you so much, Raghav, for your introductory comments. And what I'm glad is everyone's keeping to the time limit so that we can do an engaging conversation. Dr. T. Sasiprabha, your opening comments.
So very good evening. So I'm thanking the Businessworld for giving me this opportunity. So according to me, the new education policy is really a treasure to the countries like us. It is actually taking the education forward. So though we are receiving a lot of criticism about this NEP 2020. So as an academician, because right from my graduation, immediately after my graduation, I am entering into the education sector. So my perspective on this new education policy is that it is going to curtail the dropouts in education. That is a first point. The multiple entry and multiple exit system, which is there in this new education policy, is really going to help almost all people who wanted to learn their interest. So nowadays we are witnessing a lot of cases. At least 10% dropouts in every institutions are happening. If you take any institution, 10% right from the day of joining at the end of graduation, we could be able to see, and on average 10% dropouts as a whole the country is concerned. So this will certainly reduce to 1%, I would say, because after 1 year, if you want to go to some other country or some other institution or some other course, if you want to switch over, this education policy is providing a very good flexibility that really I'm admiring this flexibility. And then about this trilingual system, so all those aspects are really, and inclusivity. So and then the hands-on skilling, the vocational courses we are introducing from the school level onwards, that itself is showing that the kind of manpower we are going to get in almost all fields. Right now we are giving education and we are getting graduates, but we are not getting a skilled professionals in any field is concerned. Right from a low level to the research level, we couldn't able to find. It is very, very hard to pick up people, even for lecturers. Say for example, we are all launching new courses like artificial intelligence, data analytics. and augmented reality, which we are talking in very, very high-end technology. But we don't have sufficient manpower to teach those subjects to the people. So that kind of lacuna is there even in teaching profession. So if we have this type of vocational type of arrangements right from schooling, so people who have got the interest in this particular domain can enter into, and they can able to flourish, and will be getting a very good handset of skilled manpower in the country, which will really take a very good drive and we will one among the developed country in the nation after 10 years is concerned, because we have to make our graduates for 21st century job skill sets. So that with the current setup, it is very, very difficult. We can talk in various forums, but it is very, very difficult to bring that setup. I hope this new education policy will take us a very good lead, and we can able to provide a good skilled manpower for the nation in all aspects, not only for the nation, in their globe. So thank you. So I'll come to the next. So this
thank you so much. I just want to reiterate the talking points and the contours around all of you are making very valuable comments, and you're all practitioners, you lead education. But I just want to say that what we want to discuss is what changes have been incorporated in NEP 2020 that will emphasize on enhancing employability of the students, especially in professional degrees, and which emerging technologies can help universities in achieving those goals. Are these changes sufficient in leveraging the learning employment outcomes? How can academia be linked with the industry better than what it is today? Define or share perspective on effective use of tech in education, upskilling, and last but not the least, are we ready through our current digital infrastructure to support this leap in better scalability? If not, what should be the volume of investment and some of quick wins that universities have achieved while they've invested a little bit over the last 5 months? So we have to look at it from that. At this point, let me bring in Dr. Anand Samuel for his opening comments. Dr. Samuel.
Thank you, Batra, for this wonderful opportunity. Good evening to all friends, the co-panelists and the listeners. As I see it, it's a connection between NEP 2020 and employability. And when I read through the whole document, I would say that I was not in a position to get anything directly talking about employability as such. But I could identify about 10 items in NEP if we take it in the right spirit. And if we want to change it towards making everybody employable, and there's a possibility. What are the 10? One already Himanshu sir has pointed out. It's about importance given to technology. The second one is interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary focus, meaning that innovation is going to be order of the day, and students with multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary output, I'm sure that they'll be better employable. The third point is about the holistic. Now, of course, holistic is a holy name in the sense that it can be defined the way we want it, but if we take it in the genuine sense, if you're talking about in addition to knowledge, it's not only knowledge is important, it's also the soft skills, adaptability, attitude and aptitude, and so on and so forth. If that's going to be imparted in the name of holistic education, I'm sure that is going to improve the employability of the students in future. And the fourth point is that 3+1. So 3 years, whatever that they've been doing, they will do it. And the fourth year, the option is there. So those who are interested in higher studies, they will take up research and then go for higher studies. But there's an opportunity for all those who are interested in employability. They can use that 1 year. Now that freedom is given. So that 1 year can be utilized for enriching their employable skills and then become employable. So that's the fourth point. The fifth point is that foreign university entry. So meaning that competition is introduced in education. In my opinion, it's a good point. So quality will improve. So when the quality improves, definitely the students coming out will be better employable. The sixth point is importance given to industry interaction. And this is one topic which we've been talking about for years together. Why years? Decades together. But not much is happening in the ground level. And now this gives importance. Maybe later on I'll tell you, how we do this interaction. We don't call that as interaction because we call it as interaction for 10-15 years. Nothing happened. But later on we changed it to integration. We defined what do we mean by integration. So wonders are happening in VIT. I'll come to that later. The seventh point is that online mode may be connected to technology, but the online education definitely gives more opportunity for more people to equip themselves. Definitely that will improve employability. Along with that, UGC also has declared that anybody can take a second degree parallelly. That's another eye-opening decision taken by UGC. So that's going to improve the employability. And affiliation is going to be removed. That means everybody will be called independent, autonomous university. So if and when we conducted a survey at VIT, what brings you to VIT? Various options like higher studies opportunities and potential here to grow and things like that. 95% of the students raised their hands saying that I come to VIT because I know that VIT, if I get a VIT degree, I will be employable. So that's an eye-opening statement. We got it. So that means once affiliation is removed, and when I am independent, I can definitely focus on employability skills and then improve it. And the ninth one is about the autonomy, what NAP is advocating. And again, we have to wait and see what everybody can mean autonomy in a different way. But if it is meant in the right spirit and autonomy is given to institutions, I know that we have many institutions in India who can definitely twist the tail and then make everybody employable. And the last one, the 10th point, is about the internship, what they say. Internship for professional B degree is there. It's a mandate, been there on the rolls for so many years. But internship for all science programs also. So that means, employability not only of the professional degree students, but also the science degree students is going to be improved. Like that, it has got a lot of inputs there. If we use it appropriately, define it correctly, I'm sure that NAP 2020 will be a boon for employability. And
so we'll come back to you again. The idea is to be able to do a discussion, and I'm sure we'll make some of those points again. Dr. Samanta, your opening comments.
Thank you. In national education policy, I hope that two things will help the educational institution of this country a lot. One is autonomy, second one is flexibility, what we realize. And the plan, if you see in national education policy, that will be targeting around 50% by 2035. If you see the growth of education in this country in last decade, the enrollment in primary education, we have achieved around 10% as per the data of Ministry of Human Resource Development. And if you come to the secondary education and high school, we are reaching around 50 to 56% in last decade. And this dropout of 50% is already there in our system. And we are reaching around 50 to 56% in high school. And while coming to the higher education, by 2020, we have achieved 26.5% enrollment in higher education. So if you see the growth in primary education and high school education, we are expecting that this growth will be much more in coming days in higher education. Though we have achieved around 30 million today in our higher education sector, we are having around 30 million students today, and we are expecting that we will be reaching 50 million in next 2 to 3 years, and 50% of the enrollment will be by 2035. So with that,
those are very high targets, but it's good to peg high. When you aim for the stars, you reach somewhere. So it's there. From a practical standpoint, they're a little high. It's like somebody who runs at 10 kilometers per hour, you want him to run immediately at 100 kilometers. Or somebody wants to lose 40 kgs weight, you believe it will happen in 1 month. It takes time. So they're very high GPs that are
very high target is there, but certain flexibility is also there. The importance is being given on continuous education, the online education, adult education. Lots of doors have been opened in this. till now in this country, we didn't have that much of confidence on online education or distance education till now. But if you see this national education policy, or you see the growth of online education system, the SWAYAM is being pioneered by IIM Bangalore for the management and other education, and by different IITs for the technology education. If you see this growth, maybe we'll be achieving this, I don't know. But if you see the autonomy part of it, the autonomy is being given starting from students up to the institution in all the levels. Students are being given authority to select their courses, what courses they are going to pursue, from which institution they are going to pursue. As Mrs. Sasiprabha ma'am was telling, that the students are given the autonomy to take courses from different institutions. That means if we are having the dearth of specialists, as we are talking about IoT, we are talking about AI, then students can take the courses from different institutions. If in IIT Kharagpur, one very specialist is there in AI, maybe the students from KIIT can take some courses from IIT Kharagpur, either in online mode or offline mode, whatever will be required by him. And coming to the employability, if you see that employability skill of our engineering or the technology students, particularly while we talk about, we are talking that only 20% or 15 to 20% of the students of engineering are employable and others are not employable. It has been discussed in different forums. And while we going to the root of this discussion, we are finding that those students, maybe they're good in technology, but they lack in critical thinking and analytical skill. And while they lack in that, so they suffer in their future because of the lack of their capability to empathize and to visualize the future. Because now as the technology is changing too fast and the disruptions are making too much, so the students are expected to have the more and more capability to forecast the future of the technology and to connect them to that. So in that way, if you see the national education policy, its flexibility to take courses from different institutions, even from the institutions abroad through online mode, or even the courses from Coursera or MOOCs, the online platform, maybe those flexibility in the academic system will help our students, will help the students in different universities to acquire the skill from different platforms, whatever is not available in a single institution. Because this is a very big country. We are having around 1,000 universities and 50,000 institutions. And we cannot expect that in each and every institution, experts are there from all the field. So when that flexibility will be enjoyed by the students, I think that the institutions, the students, all the stakeholders there will leverage that in that institution itself.
Thank you so much. Krish, you're the last in this sequence, but I'll start in the second round. I'll start with you. So your opening comments, Krish.
No offense taken. Nice to be here. Thank you very much for including me on this panel. I appreciate that very much. On the NEP 2020, I think it's quite aspirational, bordering even being ambitious. But you have to set your sights high, so you would get somewhere. I think the success will depend to a large degree in the execution part of it. I come from a business background where I've built businesses for the past 30 plus years. I don't believe in strategy on a standalone basis. Strategy without execution doesn't make any sense. So I think that's what we need to watch out for. How do we implement this? How do we roll this out? But of course, much has been said about the policy being very flexible both for the students and the institutions. It is proposing to create an even playing field, including competition from foreign universities of repute. I think that's a great thing that's happening. A couple of things that caught my eye on the policy are the multidisciplinary and holistic education is something that is the need of the hour. Because none of you can't become just a mechanical engineer or a physics student without knowing what is happening with everything else. Because any problem that you want to solve has to have an interdisciplinary approach. The second thing, actually probably the more important thing that caught my eye on the policy is the emphasis on research and innovation. I come from an entrepreneurship background. So I've been longing to see emphasis on entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking in the universities. Many times people tend to mistake entrepreneurship with or measure the success of entrepreneurship with the number of startups that come out of an institution. That is not necessarily the yardstick that we must apply. That probably should not be the yardstick that we apply. If we impart an entrepreneurial mindset, entrepreneurial way of thinking to our students, they apply that knowledge and skill to solve problems. They may end up starting a business that can be a byproduct of this, but that is not necessarily the end goal of any entrepreneurship policy. I'm very happy to see that there's a lot of focus given to research and innovation. With regards to the industry-academia relationship, okay. I have a few comments that maybe we'll get to that during the course of the discussion. Absolutely, I think industry and academia have to work hand in glove in this because you're preparing students for the industry, and if industry doesn't have a say in how the students are prepared, then we are doing a disservice to the entire education system. But on that point, I want to close on one note that employability and education has been a topic for a number of years.
For 2 decades. I've been discussing it for 2 decades.
Absolutely. There is always a gap between the two, and that gap, I think it's not wise to think that we'll be able to fill that gap. We will never be able to close that gap 100%. That gap is going to exist because you cannot change your education system. It's like trying to turn a jumbo jet at the speed of light, because the changes that are sweeping the industry are happening on a daily basis. A technology that is very hot today, in a couple of days, that is gone. Something else has come up. How do you change the education system to cope with that type of change? So you have to come up with innovative ways to bridge that gap. You cannot have that gap at the same time. It's not easy to fill. So there are some things that we are doing at our own university that help fill the gap. So with that, I want to close and wait for a very engaging discussion that is coming up. And once again, thank you very much for inviting me to this panel.
Thank you so much. Let me say that almost all aspects have been covered if I put together what everyone has said. Now, what I want to know from each one of you...
Anurag, sorry to interrupt. I see Mr. Mittal from LPU on the line as well. I don't know if you're able to see him.
Pratham, are you able to join us? Hi, Pratham.
I'm only on audio, if that's all right.
Yes, that's fine. Well, you're the most handsome of all of us. So you would have given us a compliment.
I think age is on my side, while so wisdom is not.
I'm sure, younger people are more wise than people of my age. And I believe in the concept of reverse mentoring. Yesterday at the Education 40 Under 40 jury, our jury, which the chairman of AICT was the chair, and another 6 accomplished people and me, 8 of us, we spent 5 hours instead of 4 hours, only saw half of the people that we were supposed to see, because we found the young people so enterprising, with the kind of work they were doing. We ended up learning more from them during the process of the jury. Not only me, every jury member walked away feeling that, he or she learned something that they... And now the rest of the 22 that are left are being done on Sunday because, really... So the point I'm trying to make is that I'm sure we can learn from you in terms of how you envision the future. So your opening comments on how employability, scalability, technology, all these are brought together by the NEP. Pratham Mittal from LPU.
Of course. So thank you so much. And, it's been great listening to everybody. I wish I had more to add. But to be honest, I feel lots of the points have been covered that I wanted to cover. But one thing I'd love to cover is something that I wasn't expecting from the NEP, which is its focus on bringing in practitioners into the classroom. So there's a certain clause, a very discreet clause, to be honest, but I think it's of immense importance. What it suggests is that around 15 to 20% of all faculty doesn't have to abide by all the UGC norms. They can be people from the industry who might not be PhDs themselves, but have worked in the industry for a very long period of time. And now they can come into the classroom as visiting practicing professors and actually teach. So I think that is incredibly transformative. There's a survey done. We know that we don't have more than, I think, 5 lakh PhDs, of which only 30% are actually actively teaching, right? So for an audience of 40 million students, the 100, 200,000 PhDs are not going to be able to do justice. So that's where the practitioners come in. And I think that's a big gap that this NEP fills up. So I'm really excited about how universities are going to leverage industry practitioners coming in. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 I wanted to mention was online degrees. Now, this is not part of NEP. This was actually a prequel to NEP. This is in May, as a response to COVID, where the UGC allowed for 100 top universities to start online degrees. Till now, we have had online degrees in the form of distance education, but that doesn't really take up the spirit of online education forward, right? The way Coursera does it, the way the rest of the players do it. So now that the universities have to come up with their own online degrees, their own platforms, I'm really excited about how this is going to manifest itself in improved outcomes for students. So at LPU, I can give you a sense, we are going to be starting our online degrees in a couple of months now. And we are really excited because we have partnered up with global industry players, global edtech players, and they are the ones who are powering our online education, right? So we bring in the content, but they bring in the technology. And this partnership, I believe, will also be transformative in how education moves forward. So these are the 2 points I wanted to cover. Practitioners coming in and online degrees taking the front seat. I'll rest it here.
Thank you so much, Pratham. What I'd like to know from each of the panelists, Pratham, you talked about what you've done at LPU and you launched the digital degree, so to say.